is up, Pal Fam, and welcome to the last game in Shanghai, also known as the Game 6 of the Women's World Chess Championship between the world champion Zhu Wenjun and the challenger Tan Zhongyi. My name is Paul Emanuel aka Paul Pao, and we finally reached triple digits in the calendar because this is now the day 100 of the year 2025. If you know some calendar skills. Anyway, this game we're gonna analyze is the last game in Shanghai, China, because tomorrow they're gonna arrive. I mean, they're gonna go now to the challenger's hometown, which is Chongqing, and on Saturday it will be another opening ceremony. This time in Chongqing. So yeah, we're gonna find out more, and then Game 7 will be on Palm Sunday, which is April 13th. Alright, so this is a 52 move game, and Zhu Wenjun so far is currently leading the series 3 games to 2. Can she go 4-2, or can Tan Zhongyi tie the series? Let's find out. So Tan Zhongyi begins with an English opening. Alright, c4, knight f6, knight f3, e6, b3, d5. Okay, things are like going into this pawn chain right over there. But then there's bishop b2, c5, c takes, e takes, g3, knight c6, bishop d2, d4, blocking the bishop's way right over here so that it's like a defense right there. And then castles, Tan Zhongyi castles, bishop e7, knight goes to a3, castles once again, e3, d takes, bishop f5, knight to e5, takes this one back, queen c8, alright. Okay, so it starts to get interesting yet. Alright, let's move on. Queen e2 was the next move, and then bishop to h3. Ooh, this one is an interesting one. Every time there's the bishop right there, and the pawn is on g3, and then they just have like this thing all the time. I believe that it's just like if she's gonna take this one, she's gonna go for this, and then it starts to attack these territory of the king right now. But I do believe, what are the good moves? I mean, there might be a risk of knight to g4, which is a problem. So I guess she has to take this one back, and then rook to c1. Yeah, it's a pretty interesting choice. And I can go b6, and then maybe knight to b5. I could say about that at least. What else? Bishop? Yeah. Alright, let's go back to queen. So bishop h3 was the move, and then Tan Zhongyi responded with queen to f3, and then they exchanged pieces. Queen to e6, bishop b2, knight to e4, rook to fd1, rook a d8, knight c4, and then b5, knight to e5, f5. Huh. This is an interesting one. But if I go, I think f6 was a bad idea. Yep, f6 was a bad idea. Takes this one, and then, yeah. But f5, alright. So he defends it. But I have another proposition. I can also think of knight g5 as well. And I can say probably I can go queen g4. And possibly, I don't know what's the next move. f5, pushing the pawn, and then queen to f4. And then knight to e4 as well. What else? Back to f3. And maybe queen to b6 can take the cake. Well, at least that we can consider about that. Maybe I don't think we can just go queen to e5 easily because of bishop right there, and then if it takes it, boom, goodbye bishop and a rook. So I think queen e5 is an absolute blunder because Of course, it's a threatening to the mate right there. But the problem is the bishop is attacking both the bishop on b2 and the rook on a1. And that's a pin by the queen. So this is an absolute problem because of bishop. This bishop skewers the queen and is forced to move. And is forced to move the queen on b2 and a1. So you gotta take it, and if you take this one, you have no choice but to take this one back, but you lose the rook, which is a huge problem if you're in this situation. Now let's go back to f5. Then there goes knight to d3, and then g5, knight to e1, bishop f6, alright? Bishop takes and queen takes. Now my concern on this is that these are all now exposed for some reason. I've been always worried about this position. With these right there, it's exposed alongside with those. Yeah, that's my concern at every time I play chess. And I don't know why, what, when, and where, and how. Alright, let's move on. So they exchange rooks, of course, and then rook d1, they exchange rooks again. The animation is so slow. Queen to d6, refuses the queen exchange. King g7, we're now approaching endgame. Queen to e8, a6, knight f3, knight f6, queen to a8, h6, h4. Some say that this is a mistake. I think this is a mistake. I believe. Because if she pushes pawn right here, let's see, someone is gonna like go for this and right there. But h4, I think, let's see what the engine says. It's a green one, but I believe it's a bad one because it just goes for that evaluation bar to go down, and I don't know. Alright. So g4 was the next move. Let's find out what's next. Queen b7, Zwischenzug. I don't know how you like pronounce that. It says that it's an in-between move. Alright, so they exchange, and then knight d2, king f6, f4, king e6, e4, f takes, knight takes, king d5, knight f2, knight f6, king e6, king to d4, king e2, h5. Alright, so everything is now like so onto it. Like they're ready to promote, but then there's like the pawns are blocking the way. And then a4, alright, and then king c3, and then a takes, and then knight to d3, knight to e4, king e3, and then they take it. Wait a second. Hold up. I've sensed something. I don't know why, but knight h1 is also a bad idea. I think, wait! Oh my! Is this where Tan Zhongyi made a mistake? Because if I can just like, let's go move a bit farther. I can go knight to d1, and if the event goes with knight to e4, I can just go back to king g2. And the scene goes on and on. Maybe if she goes on here, I have to take this and then probably take this one back. But it's an absolute, probably it's a winning position for Ju and Jun. Even if I go king to e5 and then knight to d6, probably a push one, but later on, f6. And now maybe a push pawn is literally like this square has been controlled, and this can be a pass pawn and promote to a queen. So he has no choice but to take this one, and then probably has to take this one back, give up the knight, and it might be over. It might be over. Oh my. Even if I go a4, king to b4, a5, and then takes this one, and then eventually this pawn is going to promote to a1 and go to promote to queen. And eventually, if she goes with the flow, maybe she can just go with there and maybe not like that, but try to attack this and then go for the pass pawn and then something like that. Or this pawn will go ahead and attack that queen and eventually win the game. Attack the king rather and eventually win the game for black. So king e2, let's go back. King e2, h5, a4, king c3, a takes, knight d3, knight to e4. I think it's now too late. She has no choice. But I believe that she kind of like go back, but wait! Oh my gosh. This is where I get stunned. Even though if I go here, king d2, knight e4, and then knight takes, and then king takes, I can just like go maybe king to e2, and then probably b4, and so on and so forth. So, with this one, Tan Zhongyi had no choice. Oh my goodness. She has to either give up this b3 pawn or this g3 pawn. Wow. What just happened to Tan Zhongyi, the challenger of the Women's World Chess Championship? Oh my goodness. And then let's see what happened. Knight d3, knight e4. So this knight e4 not only attacks the pawn on g3 but defends the pawn on c5. And if this king can move, like I can move in here as the engine moves, like yeah. Takes this one, knight takes c5, knight f5, king e4, knight takes. And this pawn has no pawn surrounded by this g pawn. Wow. This is just intense. And I can say that it's a passed pawn. I mean, this pawn can also has no other pawns surrounding on the f4 pawn, but that f4 pawn is going to lose a pawn race. Wow. So the game goes with king e5, king b4, knight e4, has to give up the pawn, king f6, knight f3, f5, h4, king e7, g3, f6, g2, and that's it. Tan Zhongyi resigned for the second time in a row, thus making Zhu Wenjun keeps the lead going, goes with the flow, and leads the series 4-2 en route to Chongqing this Sunday, Palm Sunday. But let's find out. Did Zhu Wenjun actually lost the pawn race? I mean, Tan Zhongyi rather lost the pawn race. So f7, pawn goes to promote, and then this one also promotes too. Gets to pin it, and maybe queen to f5. But it says it's red. White. It says this is red. So what are the other moves? So knight to e5. So it's also a bad idea to take this one too. So there's no other choice for Tan Zhongyi. Even if I go f8 to queen and then she gets to promote as well, I cannot check white. I can just go on here and then knight to d6, knight to c6 check, king to d7, and maybe, yeah, I think knight to e5. Yep, it's a bit cooked now. She can just like push this pawn right over here and eventually win this. Wow, this is absolutely crazy. But it's just sad for Tan Zhongyi. Yeah. Well, That ends up the first half of the Women's World Chess Championship. Once again, Ju and Jun leads the series 4 games to 2. And tomorrow will be a rest day, but it's not a rest day after all because they're now both players are now gonna head now to Tan Zhongyi's home court, which is Chongqing, Chongqing, China, and they're gonna continue the last 6 games and possibly a tiebreak in Chongqing, and then they're gonna have another opening ceremony in Chongqing this April 12th, which is Saturday. So we're gonna find that out, and you can watch this. You can watch everything about it on Fides YouTube channel. Well, I guess we're gonna see you again on Sunday, but I guess it's the best time to intermission with some Mario Kart vlog. Yep, I have to finish my Mario Kart vlog on time after all. I'm still at Ninja Tour anyway. Alright, we're wasting time on here, but anyway, thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to subscribe on our YouTube and follow our Facebook. That's Paul Pow. And you can follow me on other socials for more Square 45 fun, which is Twitch, X, Instagram, and Threads. And don't forget, also, April 20 will be our PAL Plays Express Yoshi's Crafted World. That's gonna be on Easter Sunday. I've been planning for that last year. I actually failed. I didn't think about that game to play with in the demo, but yeah. Alright, that should be it for me. This has been Paul Emanuel Alvaradas, aka Paul Pao, Arena FIDE Master and 6-time Wheeler of the Week, saying goodbye for now, and we'll see you on Sunday for the Women's World Chess Championship, where only one will reign.